So in this video, I'm going to talk about thinking that you bring out the worst in men. So sometimes we as women, we might think like we bring out the worst in men in terms of them becoming angry, they becoming like aggressive or violent in some way, right? So the way how I came up with this video is that, well, I was talking to a guy, not anything romantic, just a friend, just an acquaintance, and we were just talking casually about dating and relationship, right? So during the conversation, he started to get really angry and upset. Now this will happen like even just with friends, acquaintances, or it could be like with a romantic partner, right? So it happens all across the board. So we were talking about dating. Somewhere along the line, we started to talk about who pays for the dates, who pay for trips, who pay for dinner, who pay for outings while you're dating or in a relationship, right? So he was saying like, women need to understand that it's very expensive to have a girlfriend. It's very expensive to like be in a marriage or something like that. It's very expensive to be in a relationship because men lose a lot of money while dating or while they're in a relationship. So he was saying sometimes women should show appreciation sometimes and decide to pay for the date. Decide to take care of the bill on the date. So I didn't really agree. Me personally, I don't really like to be paying for anything if I'm out with a man. I do not want to be worried or thinking about money while I'm out. I want to be relaxed. I don't want to think about the bill. I don't want to think about how much things cost. So I said maybe yes, women should be appreciative of men or whatever, whoever they're dating, but I think you can show appreciation in a different way than paying for a date, right? So he got really upset and he got really angry and the conversation started to get heated. So that's just like an example of how, like, for me, I'm just talking to a guy, talking about dating, nothing serious. He's like just an acquaintance and he gets really upset and angry just because I have a different opinion. Right? So that's an example and that is how I came up with this video. And I mean, during the conversation, he actually was getting really, really angry and really aggressive because when we continued talking and he was like, right now he's not focused on women, he focused on his money, he wants to build his money or whatever, which is great. So he's saying that, I don't really need a girlfriend right now. I don't mind being with an attractive woman, who I could just have sex with constantly. But he wants her also to just have sex with him and only him and not be in a relationship. So I was still calm. I was just like talking and just asking questions. So I was like, but wouldn't you be wasting her time doing something like that? I was saying like, I was telling him and asking him questions like, don't you know, like, women start to develop feelings when they're like having sex with someone, when they're intimate with someone? Aren't you preventing her from dating other people? Aren't you preventing her from meeting other men when you decide that she should just be with you and only you and not be in a relationship? And then he started to get really angry just by me asking questions. I was not telling him what to do. I was not telling him he's wrong. He got upset and really angry just because I'm asking questions and I'm just trying to have a conversation and figure out where the conversation going. Listen to his perspective and he listened to mine and it went south. So that's just an example of how men could start to get angry and aggressive and it's just like it's not called for, right? So I'm just saying in this video, you're not responsible. If you're a woman and you ever think like you're responsible for why are you responsible for men getting angry? Why are you responsible? Why do you bring out, that was a better word, why do you feel like you bring out the worst in men? Why do men get aggressive with you? Why do men get angry with you? It's just because most of the time they are emotionally immature, right? That's why they get angry, and that's why they get sometimes defensive and aggressive, right? You're not like bringing out the worst in them because you're just revealing what was already there. They just lack self control and they lack self awareness while they're having a conversation. They might not even know how to have a civilized conversation, right? They don't know how to talk to people who have a different perspective than them, right? Maybe sometimes they're just used to dominating the conversation and they're used to emotional manipulation while they're in the conversation. So when they see that they can't manipulate you during the conversation and dominate the conversation, that is when they start to get angry, and that is when they start to get upset, right? So it's not you bringing out the worst in them. They already have this aggressiveness and anger inside them, right? So when they get upset, it's because they feel uncomfortable when you start telling the truth, right? When you start talking things that are true, they start to feel uncomfortable. When you start to, like, for example, you start to show them like how they are ruthless. You start to show them how self-centered they are. You start to show them how egotistical they are, how self-absorbed they are. That is when they start to blame you and start to get angry. They're really like, they lack emotional regulation, they lack emotional control. They, like, sometimes you might just have to, you should just think like men were taught to like suppress their emotions, and then when you start to talk about a sensitive topic or you have like a hard conversation, they tend to lash out. Especially, I don't know, especially if you're calm and you calmly disagree, they tend to lash out and start to get angry. So it's just sometimes their past relationship, they have love trauma from the past that is coming back up, and then they start to get angry with you, and that has nothing to do with you. Maybe they had failed relationships where they were inadequate and they don't want to feel inadequate again. They don't want to look like they're not good enough again. So they get angry and they get aggressive. They're just reacting from the old pain that they had in past relationships. And like, I'm talking to this guy, I don't know his past relationship. I don't know what he had to spend on. I don't know if he had to spend on hair, nails, shoes, clothes. I don't know. Maybe he had to spend a lot. Maybe he lost money. I don't know. But he was angry and he was aggressive. And sometimes it could be like in a romantic relationship where men get angry, they get aggressive, and sometimes they might think that they're in love with you, they might think that they love you, they might think that they care about you, but when you really think about it, love does not, like, if you're in love does not disrespect you, love does not fumble you around and mistreat you, love does not like yell at you. If you're in love, why would you want to yell at your partner when things become uncomfortable or you have a hard topic? If you love them, you care about them, you are in love with them, you're not gonna be hostile and aggressive. When you speak the truth and when you be honest and you be straightforward, sometimes men just lash out. When you try to express your emotion, you try to explain what is going on, what is affecting you, like in the relationship, sometimes you become aggressive, you become defensive also, angry, and even sometimes they disappear because they just can't handle the truth. Love not supposed to punish you because you have a different opinion. You have a different opinion, you have a different perspective. You're standing up for yourself, you're doing the right thing, and they're getting angry with you. That's obviously, that shows like you're immature. And maybe you could say their love is conditional because they might love you when you're silent, when you comply, when you be submissive, when you don't challenge them, when you give them what they want and then leave them alone, that's when they think that they love you, and that is not love. When they get angry, when they get aggressive, it's just that they feel exposed. They feel exposed and they feel maybe a little vulnerable. When you talk with clarity and you talk with composure and you state your boundaries clearly, it just highlights their emotional immaturity. It just shows them how immature they are. They might be used to women talking back at them, yelling back at them, or they might be used to women being silent and not saying anything, or just being agreeable to hold the peace, to keep peace. Or they might just be used to women just saying what they want to hear. And when you come and you be assertive and you calm and you are like you're calm, you're assertive, you're stating your boundaries, it takes away like their control, because they're trying to control you by fighting you, by arguing with you, by being aggressive. Your calmness takes away their control. When you don't give them a fight that they're expecting, especially if they like insecure, they will get angry, right? You're talking truth. When you're talking the truth, they get angry. The other reason why they get angry is because if you have like a different perspective and you like not you don't agree with them, you have a different opinion, they take that as disrespecting them. They unconsciously think that if you disagree, you disrespect them, but that don't make any sense, right? This conversation I was telling you about, actually all hell broke loose because we were talking. What else we were talking about? We were talking about how do you select a partner, right? So I was saying, well, is there different ways you could select a partner? Casually talking, I was just saying, well, you could focus on one person, you get to know them, and then you decide if you want to get in a relationship with them or not. Or you could be dating multiple people and then you choose one. And then he do not like the option of having multiple partners and then choosing one. Dating multiple men and then choosing one. He did not like that option, and he was so upset that I mentioned that, right? So it's like, because he don't agree with that option, he was furious and he was aggressive, and then he started to call me a slut, and then he started to call me a bitch, because maybe he think that dating and talking to maybe multiple men means that you're having sex with multiple men and then you're gonna choose. So it seems like if talking to or dating or getting to know someone means having sex with them, in his mind, because I don't understand why you would be so aggressive and call me a bitch and call me a slut because I share an opinion. I don't understand. Just having a different point of view. Maybe he felt challenged. Maybe they think that you're not listening to them because you don't agree with them, right? Maybe they feel like you're attacking them because you're not agreeing with them, but it's just like a conversation. I just have a different perspective. I'm just asking questions. I'm not attacking you, but they feel attacked. They feel disrespected. Most of the time when they get angry, when they get aggressive, it's their ego. They're living in their ego and they are not emotionally aware that they're living in their ego. They just want to be right. They just want to win the argument. They just feel like what they think and what they feel are facts. Like, you're there calmly talking your truth, talking about your opinion, talking about your perspective, and while they're living in their ego, if you're living in your ego and you hear something that's not in alignment with how you think and what you believe, you're gonna respond with anger. You're gonna respond with aggression. Sometimes you could be in denial. You know, they're probably used to reactive women yelling back or submissive women. They're not used to somebody being calm, comfortable, stating their opinion. You're not bringing out the worst in them. They already have that in themselves. They are emotionally immature. They can't see things from different perspectives, and they're just closed-minded. They lack knowledge and they lack understanding of like what you're actually talking about. So that's another thing. They have a lot of ego and they have a lot of pride. When you see men getting extremely angry and aggressive, they just start to blame you for everything. That's immature. When men have a lot of ego and they have a lot of pride, they never want to apologize. They never want to understand from your perspective. They prefer to be closed-minded. They prefer to be stagnant in their life. They prefer to not develop themselves and be better. They prefer to be emotionally illiterate just because they have this big ego and they have so much pride. They're just protecting their image. They will protect their image at all costs. They would lose a good woman and lose a good connection just protecting their image and just like living in their ego. They just have too much pride. When they get aggressive, when they get angry, is arrogance. They lack empathy. They just refuse to admit that they make a mistake. They're just, when they're immature, emotionally immature, and have a lot of ego and pride, they just dismiss the feelings of women and dismiss the concern of the woman that they're with, or maybe a friend. Yes, they will stay stagnant in their life. They will not improve themselves. They might actually regress in their life, never become better. These men who are aggressive, who are angry, who have a loud outburst, that like it's too much, like they overreact, they are really problematic and they are very difficult to deal with just because of their ego. Right? They give you a hard time, they be argumentative because they're just full of pride. They can't admit that they are wrong. They're gonna just stay in their high horse. They're gonna just act like the sun shines for them alone, and they're gonna just carry on like that, and they're not gonna change, and they're gonna stay aggressive and they're gonna stay angry, and that's unattractive. And sometimes you might have the power because you are calm, you are quiet, you are grounded and you are clear, so they might not be able to like handle that type of power, right? You refuse to be emotionally manipulated, and you choose to stand firm and talk your truth and stay rooted, and don't play emotional games, don't be manipulative in conversations, and they just can't control you. So that's why they get aggressive and that's why they get angry. They see that they can't control you, they see that they can't manipulate you, they see that they can't fool you, so they try to just break your peace by being aggressive, by being angry, by being forceful, by just like flipping the script and making you think like you're wrong. And all hell breaks loose. Yep. They become violent, they become chaotic, and it's extremely unattractive. Yes. So the sad thing about the situation is that men who get angry, they actually want love, they actually want attention, and they want connection. They want admiration too. But they're just emotionally unavailable and they're just emotionally immature. And that will block the connection that they want to have with a good woman. They may not be able to handle emotional depth, So they get angry, they get aggressive. They're not working on themselves, they're not trying to be better, they're not emotionally intelligent, they lack knowledge about women, they don't know how to be a man, they literally don't know how to behave in a relationship, they don't know how to have a girlfriend, they don't know what they're doing. Or maybe, well, and maybe they just fear of, they afraid of being intimate, they're afraid of being in love. I don't know exactly, but they are most of the time they are avoidant, and they just don't want to be exposed, because you come with emotional clarity and you are fully present about what is happening in the relationship. It don't have to be in a relationship, it could just be in general when you're talking, you know. And eventually they will push you away, because those types of behaviors, it blocks the connection from progressing. Their aggressiveness and their anger and their rage is a total turn off. And most of the time they're just fighting to be right. They're not willing to listen. They can't listen when they're yelling. They can't listen when they're using obscene language and being in a highly emotional state. Sometimes I'm really shocked to see men being in a highly emotional state, because it's just like, sometimes I'm shocked I can't even talk, I just watch, and I'm just like, why would they act like that? And it's uncalled for when they're yelling. And when you're calm, they might think like, oh, you're cold. Some men, they don't expect calmness, groundedness, assertiveness. They expect you to yell back at them. They might expect you to cry. They might expect you to beg for them to understand you. They might expect you to chase after them, yell back at them, fight with them, and you don't. And then they think like you're cold and maybe aloof or something like that. But that's not the case. When you just simply state your truth, you hold eye contact with them, you don't flinch, they think you're cold. And that's not the case. Their ego is bruised. You're bruising their ego when you talk the truth. They can't handle it, and that's how it leads to hostility. When you don't fight back, you're calm, you leave it out to fight. It's just like if they get even more upset sometimes. Just because you have standards and you're just not willing to settle for less, some men, they get angry. When you refuse to be mistreated, you refuse to be disrespected. When you refuse to be disrespected, you refuse to not take mediocre treatment, they call you like names, or they try to say like you're too much, or you're too hard to deal with, you're too much to handle, because they are just emotionally lazy. They don't want to be mature. They don't want to work on themselves. They don't want to step up and be better, and that is why they might say that you're difficult, you're hard to go with, or you're too much. So that's another thing. But anyway, what to do when this happens? The best thing to do is just don't try to prove your point. Don't engage in the fire. Don't try to talk, argue back with them. Don't try to over explain yourself. Don't hope that they would understand. Don't try to match their energy. Don't absorb that negative emotion that they have. Don't absorb the anger and the rage. Don't get angry, don't get aggressive, don't get defensive like them. Don't get violent, don't get chaotic. It's not worth it. Don't try to defend yourself, because these men that get angry, aggressive, over the top, it's not worth it. They're not working on themselves. They're immature. You just have to walk away from the room or end the call or whatever it is. Don't try to apologize. Don't chase after them. Don't try to beg them to understand you. Some men are just not used to a grounded woman. Grounded, strong, emotionally intelligent. They're just not used to that. They will just attack you. Some of them, they're just used to chaos. They're used to arguments and conflict. So just remove yourself when you encounter disrespectful men, abusive men, hurtful men, men who emotionally immature, emotionally illiterate. You just continue to show up mature, steady, and emotionally intelligent, because they are not, more than likely, they're not going to work on themselves. They have a big ego, they are full of pride. So you just have to take a deep breath and relax your body and just keep your voice even, or you could say nothing at all, and just stay in control of yourself, because it's not worth it. You could just say in a form, non-apologetic tone that this isn't respectful and I'm done talking, or I don't respond to aggression. You could say that you're willing to have a conversation, but you're not willing to fight and have conflict, right? You just trigger something in them. You're not responsible for their emotions, you're not responsible for their actions. Remember, this aggressive behavior was already in them before you did not bring it out. It was there before you ever met them. If they don't reflect and they don't take responsibility for their actions or change their ways or try to become better, you just have to withdraw from them emotionally, physically, and just basically just leave them alone. That's the best thing that you could do. So this video was just saying that you're not responsible for how a man react, especially when they react aggressive, when they react angry and out of control. That is not you bringing it out. It was already there. Most of the time these men are close-minded, they are emotionally illiterate, they have not worked on themselves. Most of them will not change. They will continue to be like that. They will be stagnant, or they will even regress in their life. It's not worth it. So basically you will just leave them alone. So that's the video. If you want, you can like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.